to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. I'll have one more video up later tonight where I talk about the 5 most likely candidates at the quarterback position to break out in 2020. And of course, you know Daniel Jones will probably be on that list, so I'm looking forward to making that video as I'm trying to do some different things on the channel. But in this video, I wanted to talk about some of the quotes that have come out from some of the so-called experts, people that work for the Draft Network, people that work for NFL.com, praising Dave Gettleman and the New York Giants for the draft that they had this year. And some may give credit to Joe Judge, some may give credit to Dave Gettleman. At the end of the day, I'm a New York Giants fan. I don't care. And everybody knows I was thrilled with the draft. I've been talking for 4 months what the New York Giants should do in this year's draft, and they went out there and they did it. I wanted them to take 2 offensive linemen in the first 3 rounds. They did just that. Now, I thought one would be a center, but regardless, they got their right tackle and left tackle of the future. At least that's the thought process. One interesting quote that I found on GiantsWire.com talked about Matt Peart potentially being better suited to play the left tackle than Andrew Thomas. I found that interesting. But the Giants, to me, were forward-thinking. They weren't just thinking about this year with this draft, which is the way this team should be thinking. They should be thinking about building a dynasty for 10, 15 years. And to do that, you need a strong foundation, especially when you have a second-year quarterback in a new system with Daniel Jones and a running back. You're trying to build that line behind. So I completely agreed with the philosophy, and you're seeing more and more people come out and praise the New York Giants for the draft that they have, even though they may not be ranking them that high in the power rankings, because, well, this team still has a lot of growing up to do, but they're definitely headed down the right path. But let's jump into some of the quotes that I was able to pull up regarding the New York Giants draft from some experts. This one being I can't pronounce it right, but he works for the NFL Network, the Draft Network rather, which is where I did all my mock drafts. It's where I do a lot of my research for my videos. And he goes on to say that he is a critic of Dave Gettleman, but then he later goes on to say how good of a draft that he really had. I was not a fan of Gettleman's first 2 drafts. In 2018, in a quarterback-rich class, the Giants took a running back, Saquon Barkley, 2nd overall. The next year, in a defensive stud-laden class, Gettleman drafted Daniel Jones, a quarterback, 6th overall. And to me, even though I like those 2 players, I think they're fair criticisms. You go back, look at the drafts last year going in. That's why I was a big proponent of taking Josh Allen. I think 10 out of the top 11 or 12 prospects were on the defensive side of the football. And usually when that's the case, you're usually a team that wants to go with the trend and draft for the strength of that draft. Well, I talked about leading up into this draft for months that the biggest strength was the offensive tackle position. It was known as a strong offensive tackle and wide receiver draft. The Giants clearly had a much bigger need at the offensive tackle position. It's a more important position. And Trevor goes on to agree with me throughout his article. In a stacked offensive tackle class, Thomas's allurement was in the high level of play and readiness. He was a 3-year starter in the SEC and went up against some of the best pass rushers college football has to offer. Thomas stood the test of time against them. But Thomas wasn't the Giants' only offensive line addition in the top 100. New York double-dipped on their O-line need with UConn's Matthew Peart with the 99th pick in the 3rd round. Peart needs to work on his fundamentals and how technical he was with his massive wingspan, but when he can put it all together, he's extremely hard to get around. Even if he doesn't play right away, Peart is exactly the kind of player the Giants want on the roster now to develop as much as they can, and it's a perfect opportunity because for the first time in forever, they have some depth, especially at the tackle position with guys like Solder still on the roster. And you bring in Cam Fleming. So Peart is going to have the ability to sit on the bench for a year and learn from some of these pros before you bring him into the starting lineup probably in 2021. But I'm really excited to show you guys some of the quotes further talking about Peart in a second. He later goes on to say after passing on Isaiah Simmons at the top of the 1st round, the Giants added a player who not only can play on the back end, but has a lot of experience roaming around the linebacker level and in the slot. Alabama coach Nick Saban asked a lot of McKinney, and McKinney continued to deliver from 18 to 19. Adding McKinney's athleticism and versatility to a safety group that already had Jabril Peppers and now Julian Love should be a home run. So he absolutely thought the Giants knocked it out of the park. And I think most Giant fans are on board with this. This was written by, I think it's Bucky Brooks. Bucky Brooks works for NFL.com. He went on to praise Darnay Holmes. Darnay Holmes is the best nickel cornerback in the 2020 draft class, possesses a unique skill set of skills that should enable him to shine immediately in the league. Holmes' combination of speed, agility, intelligence, and competitiveness and toughness are ideal for the slot corner position. And the slot corner, to me, is the most underrated position on a defense, especially in today's NFL, which is viewed as the 12th starting position on a defense in today's game. The UCLA product has the capacity to cover shifty receivers in tight quarters and also understands how to maintain his leverage to maximize the help available to him from linebackers and safeties. Holmes' high football IQ and his overall awareness of coverage should make him ideally suited for the slot corner in a multifaceted scheme that demands a lot from the nickel back. Given Holmes' toughness, tackling, and competitive spirit, the move inside could help him become a game changer at the next level. He later goes on to say, I would think they'd probably play Andrew Thomas at left, said Nagy. This talking about, obviously, Andrew Thomas, but these were the quotes I wanted to show you guys about Matt Peart. But if you were starting from scratch and where they got drafted from wasn't an issue, you'd probably put Peart at left and Thomas on the right. I thought that was interesting because obviously we all just assume that Andrew Thomas is the left tackle of the future. I still assume that, but he's drawing high praise if he's saying that he views Matt Peart potentially as the better left tackle prospect over Andrew Thomas, who by most people's standards was thought to be the best left tackle in this class. Usually you can't get a guy with a starting left tackle ability in the third round. And he's got the type of upside, his feet, his length. He's done some really good stuff in pass protection. He's a better athlete than Andrew Thomas. He later goes on to say, Nagy believes the Giants will benefit best by plotting Peart on the left side. Maybe not right away, but over time. He's not as good of a football player right now, but he's a better athlete. That's clear. That's inarguable, Nagy said. So I found a lot of those quotes to be very interesting, especially the ones regarding Peart, and just the experts continuing to praise the New York Giants for the draft that they put forward this year. I think that Dave Gettleman knocked it out of the park, but I continue to stress we can't judge the draft just on 1 year. This is going to be a 2 or 3 year process as these picks continue to mature, and a lot of them, guys like Peart, guys like Lemieux, even probably a guy like Darnay Holmes, were picks that probably will not influence this team until the 2021 season, at least on a large scale. So we got to be patient. We got to let them develop. But the Giants took the right approach this offseason. They look towards the future. And you got to love what you see. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.